we start the
Here we
podcast. But
What's the rush, Spike? We have so much to talk about with this game.
we're not going to talk about the fucking game, Mike. We'll talk about the game for 5 minutes if you want. Jesus Christ.
I got things to say. I can fill some time.
Oh yeah, please. Could you do me a favor and stare at the box score and make sure you mention something that every player did, so we can make sure that we talk about this game that nobody gives a shit about until minute 38. Could we?
There was an historic occasion in this Sixers game, Spike. I'll have you know. I don't want to waste it on the filter, and I'm going to save it for the main thing.
Yeah, please.
But history was made by the Philadelphia 76ers tonight, and we're going to talk about this.
Great. You're actually, I don't want to tell you to move away from the, you know what it is? No. That's way too far. That's way too, you're just popping your P's because you're close. How about that? Talk.
Okay.
There we go.
Is this not popping the P's anymore?
No, what I should do.
Pop.
What I should do is send you a cover.
Okay. You send me some new light bulbs while you're at it?
Light doesn't look too bad.
Okay, well, that's good.
If you want me to buy you a ring light, I could buy you a ring light.
No, maybe.
I'm not going to buy you one of these CJ lights. They were too expensive.
Well, now that I'm in residence here, maybe I should step my game up a little bit.
Let me make sure. Hang on. Oh, goodness gracious. Goodness gracious, they said.
Yeah. Well,
trust the process, they said.
That's right.
Trust the process, they said.
This game did kind of feel like coming home in some ways.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, this was bad in a way that we haven't seen in quite a while.
But in a way that feels inherently familiar, you know?
Yeah, I would say so. We're not supposed to talk about the game before the pod, though. So
okay, sorry. Well, we can talk more about...
I saw The Monkey.
Did you like it?
I did enjoy it. It is not like Oz Perkins' other two movies in that it has like sort of Final Destination vibes. I don't want to give it away in case you see it, but it's definitely funnier than Blackcoat's Daughter or Longlegs or whatever. I thought it was good though.
Is it still in theaters?
No. Well, we saw it this past weekend. So yeah, it just opened this past weekend.
Okay, yeah.
So, all right, we ready to rock? Let's rock. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is so proudly presented by Draftkings Sportsbook. Sign up for Draftkings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS, and brought to you by Briggs Auction, the official auction of the Ricky at briggsauction.com. They used to be the official auction of the process, but like, do we really want to do that anymore? I don't want to do it. Officially auction of the Ricky. Big Barker therapeutic dog beds. Get yours at bigbarker.com. Use code FREEPATCHES for your Process Pup patches. And Surfside Iced Tea and Vodka, the official sponsor of the Corner 3 newsletter with Zoe. Subscribe at rightstoRickySanchez.com/newsletter. On the show today, boy, it's just like, it's all bad. Joel Embiid probably out for the season. Sixers lose by 50 to the fucking Bulls. Well, maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. And AU loses in Pop Culture Jeopardy. I mean, really, is there anything else we could...
Second round, baby.
Yeah, second round. Just perfect. AU sitting in for Mike as Mike is traveling in Japan, but we soldier on. Coward. What a coward. Before we get...
I got some thoughts there, believe me.
Trust me, we can get to your thoughts about that. Before we get going, Surfside Iced Tea and Vodka. Look, the Sixers are bad, but Surfside Iced Tea and Vodka is good. It tastes good. It is only 100 calories. It's only 3 grams of sugar. And when I say it tastes good, geez, which one of them doesn't taste good? There's so many varieties. Surfside Iced Tea and Vodka, I like that one. Iced Tea Lemonade and Vodka, like that one. Lemonade and Vodka, like that one. Green Tea and Vodka, like that one. Gonna be honest with you, on the Raspberry Tea and Vodka, I don't like raspberry anything. So it tastes nice, but it's not really my speed. There's no carbonation in any of it because why in the world would iced tea have bubbles? You can get it wherever you get your alcohol. Now in PA, literally wherever you get your alcohol. Used to just be liquor stores, not now. Beer distributors, yes. If you get booze at the gas station, grocery store, Surfside is there. Or you can just go to statesidevodka.com. And by the way, Fly the Process still happening at the end of March. even though the Sixers are bad. To me, this makes it funnier. You can say you traveled across the country to see one of the worst teams in the NBA. Are we going to cheer for them to win? Are we going to cheer for them to lose? Who knows? All I know is we're going to have a good time. Fans of Philly, always a good time. We leave on March 21st. We come back on March 24th. You, me, a bunch of weirdos go to rightsrickysanchez.com/fly to sign up. Without any further ado, Amos and the chef.
I gotta change the word to the song. We were wrong, y'all, we were wrong. Fucked around and played along all along. We were wrong, y'all, we were wrong. Fuck them all, y'all, let them bang a gong. We were wrong. Fuck them all, y'all, let them bang a gong. We were wrong.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with... Oh, yeah.
The people demanded it.
They demanded. Oh, yes.
Hey, you, get off my goal. Hey, you, get off my goal.
Uh-huh.
Hey, you, get off my goal.
There we go.
Hey, you, get off my goal. Get it.
Andrew Unterberger sitting in for Mike, who is traveling in Japan.
God.
We got to let the song play out. This is a banger, actually.
Oh, it always is, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, God, the AU song and the We Were Wrong song back to back. Like, what a way to start a podcast.
Look at all these bangers from Amos and the
hits.
chef. AU, welcome. Thank you for sitting in, my friend.
No, of course, yeah. No, typical Mike. Typical fucking Mike. You know, he actually wants the team to lose. He sets them on their path towards losing now that they've embraced losing more than any other Sixers team in the history of the franchise. Where is he?
He's gone.
Gone. Fucking off jet setting to Japan, leaving me holding the bag.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy this. I don't want them to lose.
Did he say that it was another honeymoon? CJ, did he say something about that? Oh, okay, he didn't. He's just taking a trip. Okay.
Got to celebrate that 2-year anniversary of the original honeymoon.
Yes.
Certainly, like that takes precedence over his fucking job. Of course.
Well,
yeah.
that would be in the playoffs. You got to do that in the playoffs. That would be the anniversary. So, Ayo, so we're going to get to the Embiid stuff. We'll talk about this disgrace of a game first, but the Embiid thing is a bigger thing, and I'm smiling because I loved hosting podcasts with AU here, but the Embiid stuff is terrible, and on some level could signal the end of all of this that we've been doing for the last 11 years. So I don't want to do it up front because, I'd rather talk about losing by 50 points to the Bulls. AU, can I share?
Don't make me choose. Good Lord.
AU, can I share the one funny line from our email exchange earlier today?
Sure.
Okay, so I sent AU a note asking if he could fill in for Mike's dates, and originally we were supposed to do the pod on Wednesday, but because of the Embiid news, I said, hey, maybe it'd be better to do the pod today. Could you do it? And he said, yeah, and we're going back and forth. And like one charming thing about the email is he was like, hey, I don't think Embiid's going to play. And I was like, oh, wow.
I was right about that one. Can't deny that I was right about that one.
You were. And he said, this is my favorite email in AU history. So I said to AU, hey, I don't really want to talk about the game that much. I really want to talk about the Embiid stuff. And AU says, this entire email is just classic. LOL at perhaps...
You said one line, by the way. This is going to be 2 lines at least.
Yes. LOL at perhaps the most consequential game remaining on the Sixers schedule, essentially being an afterthought. I get it, though. I bet you Embiid sits, and the Sixers win pretty handily tonight, for the record.
I'm glad I got that for the record on there, just in case you thought that I was saying that not for attribution. I'm glad that I put it officially on the record there.
Yes.
That was a close one.
Most consequential game on the schedule. I guess. And
that part was right, too. That part was also right.
Yeah.
The other part was wrong. I was wrong in my prediction about the Sixers winning this game handily.
Yeah.
They didn't do that.
No,
That's true. You got me on that one.
Yeah, they're just like a broken team. They're broken. Yeah. They are broken by it in a different way than we are, but maybe more similar than we've ever been to the team and how they're broken by it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I think athletes and fans internalize wins and losses way differently. But this season, I feel like has been such a weight and a drag in so many different ways that they are collapsing under under that weight of it. And it's one of the reasons why I'm partially, I understand why people are so critical of Nurse, but I have this other part is like, well, what could he do? So tonight, I would love to be mad about it or anything like that, but they're broken by this season. And I feel like they need it to be over, or they need some sort of resolution about what this season means even more than we do.
No, I mean, the good news about losing by 50 to the fucking barely 10-seeded Chicago Bulls is that you don't have to spend time casting blame in any one or two directions. It's everything. It's everybody. It's all of us. Like,
yeah.
There's nothing that could have been done in this game that could have saved it, and by extension saved the season. Maybe if that even still counts as saving the season, I don't know. But I mean, yeah, I guess you can blame Nick Nurse or Daryl Morey in some sort of big picture sense. Josh Harris, the fucking fates of the universe. I don't know. But generally speaking, yeah, the team just is shot, and who knows if things had gone different at the end of that Brooklyn game, maybe they wouldn't be feeling the weight of the world on their shoulders quite this amount. They probably still would, because obviously the world is crumbling around Embiid, and he's still the center of everything. And so if shit's just not going to go right with him, and the season is already has gone as badly as it has, then what is there to play for? Like, well, and Tyrese Maxey is playing down a finger, Paul George is playing down a finger, Gerson Yabusele is like losing eyes left and right. Like, what's left? Like there's not going to be a team by the end of the season, much less a team worth playing and worth trying to win with.
Yeah, and you feel for the players who are sort of not playing for their NBA lives, but on some level, Gershon Yabusele and Quentin Grimes and all these guys whose futures are determined. Like Maxey's contract is whatever, Paul George's contract is whatever, all that. But all these other guys that I just kind of bummed for them, I guess. And I don't mean this. I think me and Mike always preface this with this is not shitting on Maxey. It's never shitting on Maxey. But we'll get to the Embiid thing in a second, and I can understand why you can look back at this past offseason and all the people who said you shouldn't build around Embiid and blah, 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 blah. I get it. But all you need to do is look at this season as to why building around Embiid, moving on from Embiid and building around Maxey is not like a reality, because we literally could have we've had, even last year with spare parts, mostly, spare parts and Maxey. Any team you put on the floor with Embiid was essentially a 50-win team, at least, since his rookie year. Any team you put him on the floor with was a 50-win team. And the numbers of players in the NBA that you could say that about are very, very small. It's not even like LeBron or Steph Curry or, it's really like Jokic and Giannis and Embiid, who are really the only three players who at their peak have that sort of effect. And you can understand why somebody like Morey is so entranced by a player and this is the difference between the two players, and I'm not saying that a team focused around Maxey couldn't be good or something, but when you're talking about a championship, this is why it is so alluring to look at Embiid and say, I got to try it again and again and again.
Yeah, I have no, I don't know. Where do we even start talking about the Embiid stuff? Like, if we go back to the summer and we'd say, okay, yeah, it made sense that they give him this contract extension. But when we look back at what the Olympics looked like with Joel, clearly something wasn't totally right there. And it's just, where do we draw the line with where it was okay to invest in Embiid at this level again? Like when did he stop being the Joel Embiid that we know from the last 5 years and start being this version of Joel Embiid? You could say it was as early as late last season. And in that case, maybe we shouldn't have given that contract. But I do generally agree with you that how could you not? Like, it's Joel Embiid. It's the best player in franchise history, maybe, or at least in modern franchise history. It is a guy who at his peak guarantees your team is at least good and has the potential of being great. And there's just no way to win without him. So it's hard to really find fault in that specific decision, but that specific decision might end up doing the franchise. So it's hard to not find fault in it too. I really don't know.
So there's nothing to talk about with this. We'll just move on to the Embiid thing, right? There's nothing.
Can I do two things about this game?
Yes, absolutely.
Andre Drummond, 8 of 8 from the free throw line. Like in a game full of just wacky fucking subplots, this was by far the wackiest.
I looked it up. Point game.
Exactly. Get him a sheet of paper, write 8 of 8 on it.
Yeah.
I even looked this up on Basketball Reference after the game. It is the first time in his career he's ever taken as many as 8 free throws and made all of them.
Wow.
Shout out to Andre Drummond. Just changing perceptions every night. Unbelievable stuff.
Yep.
And did you hear the David Roddy chants at the end?
Oh yeah. Well, I truly love, like, Philadelphia fans do. There's the like what everybody knows about Philadelphia fans, and then there's the little sort of weird things that we have that are very particular to Philadelphia fans, and the Roddy chants were one of them. They just, it was like when everybody at the lottery party started cheering for Vlade Divac. We just all decided that was the thing to do. The cheering for David Roddy thing, it doesn't make any sense at all. But they were in the arena and they wanted to cheer for something, and they decided that when David Roddy hit a fucking 3-point shot, they were going to go ape shit, and they did it.
I'm so glad that we still got it. You know, that we still have that like arrow in our quiver or whatever. Like I wasn't sure if we'd remember if like those old reflexes would kick in moments like that.
Yeah.
But the fact that we still did it was the right thing to do. And you fucking like went on the score like double digits in the quarter, which in a game like this actually felt meaningful. We will probably never hear from David Roddy again, but like welcome to the Carl Landry Hall of Fame, David Roddy. Like,
yes.
God bless.
Yeah, absolutely. The Rice to Ricky Sanchez podcast brought to you by Briggs Auction. I would say this, and CJ and I talked about the auction that's going on right now at Briggs. This is one of my favorite Briggs lots that I've seen. So Briggs Auction is a family-owned and operated auction house in Garnet Valley. But don't worry, you don't have to go there. It's not like, give me 50. Who's got 55, 55, 55, 50? No. Online auctions. You can download the app in Google Play or the App Store. Art, yes. Collectibles, yes. Furniture, yes. Clothing, yes. One-of-a-kind items that you're not going to find anywhere else. I think there's a Harley in this particular auction. I believe there's a Harley from like 1975, which is pretty awesome. So many of the lots start at $1. CJ, why don't you give us another one of your favorite items from this lot here?
Yeah, so if you just look through like my starred items, it's just various things that I want to add to my next apartment, keeping on the same topic as the lamp from last read. But today's episode, we got a Turkish room-sized carpet. I really like the pattern on here.
What's the size on that? Is that like a 12 by 12?
It's a little smaller. It's
Jobby?
4'9" by 4. I guess a little under 5 foot by 9 foot. So,
okay, all right.
Definitely a nice sized area rug, and it's very unique. And like you're not going to be able to go into Target or Home Goods or like some various box store and find something like this. Like the quality is very good. Obviously, get it cleaned or whatever. It's going for $200 right now, and the range is $400 to $600. Kelly did not approve of this item, so I probably won't be getting it. But I love the print. I love it. So it's someone out there, please pick it up.
That is one of the negatives of cohabitation. I remember when I first started dating Val, I had this old city apartment, and I had this big black and white painting of Jimi Hendrix over my couch, like with smoke coming out of his mouth. And we were moving in together, and I was like, like we got to make sure to take that. And she was like, where are you going to put it? And I was like, the living room. No. So that's, you make, what's the word I'm looking for? You compromise. Yeah.
Can I say something real quick before we move on from this?
Yeah.
CJ, I've written a lot of headlines for the Rice to Ricky Sanchez blog in my life, and I've helped come up with some others for some of our other writers. We have never had a better one than your move into my apartment.
Yeah.
That headline just puts a big old smile on my face every time I see it. I keep putting it into other articles because it just makes me happy to see that like inline link. I love it.
Keep it simple.
So as I said, there's new I say lots new auctions, but basically every week with hundreds and hundreds of lots in all of them. Some of them starting as low as $1. If you win one of the auctions Saturday, open pickup, awesome. Or you can schedule during the week, awesome. Or they can work with you on a shipper, especially if it's a big item, awesome. I remember I went on a Saturday for open pickup. I met like 4 Ricky people picking stuff up. One guy was furnishing his entire new basement with stuff that he got at Briggs, which is awesome. And if you have a bunch of stuff to sell that might be worth something, you got to work with Briggs Auction only. Send them an email info@briggsauction.com. That is info@briggsauction.com. Briggs Auction, the official auction of the Ricky. Okay, so let's start with Embiid. Let's start just Sunday and just frame it or whatever. Embiid is listed as doubtful, and Shams has this report, and this is what is in the report. The Philadelphia 76ers and Joel Embiid are consulting doctors and considering alternative options such as surgery for his injured knee, sources told ESPN on Sunday. Both sides have hope for progress in Embiid's condition, but his determination to play and current treatments, including regular injections, sources said, have not led to any improvement. Embiid is scheduled to undergo tests on his knee early this week, and I believe that happened today. There was some imaging, I guess an MRI done on it today, at which point both parties will collaborate with specialists on the best route forward, sources said. Embiid has publicly and privately said in recent weeks he might need surgery or an extended rest period for his knee to heal, but he has been determined to find ways to play to be available for the 76ers. So that is the part of the story that came from Embiid's camp right there. So you can tell by the way it is written. So let's start with the knee and where it is and like try to make sense of all of this. There is literally, I understand people who have been frustrated with the Sixers' lack of clarity about Embiid's knee since the beginning of the year. But I have to say, if you have listened to this podcast or followed other reporters, there hasn't really been that much of a lack of clarity. Most of the lack of clarity is caused by Joel himself when he says something like, I might need surgery to fix it, or so on and so forth.
Well, it's hard to have clarity about a situation that's this fucking unclear. Like
it's not unclear. Okay, let me make it clear for you, and let me make it clear for everyone who is listening. I'm going to make it clear, and I feel like I've said it 100 times. I understand why people are frustrated. Here is what happened. He had meniscus surgery twice on the same knee, right? And they were both meniscectomies, which means you take a little piece of the meniscus away. I believe he sprained the same knee once too, or had a bone bruise on it, whatever. Maybe I think it was the same knee. I believe I went through them all, right? CJ, once on one podcast. I think it was 4 different things to the same knee. Also, he is 7'1" and 275 pounds, and his job is to run up and down on a basketball court. And also, he's 30 years old, and also he has shown a proclivity for not healing all that well or all that fast. So here's what's wrong with the knee. When you have that much damage to a knee, it becomes a chronic issue. You can call it arthritis if you want to call it. You can whatever you want, but when you look across it is not an injury. It is now a condition, right? It's not an injury that you can just. So when he says, and here's the problem with the when he says things like that, and I think he's doing it really to make himself feel a certain way, to be honest.
Yeah.
When he says we got to have surgery and fix it, that gives people the impression that there is a surgery that can fix it. That is not true, right? That doesn't exist. There isn't, because people say, well, why didn't he just have the surgery this year? That way he could be ready for next year. This doesn't exist. It's not true, right? So what they expected is if you look, there are tons of athletes who have had meniscus tears. And I think if you looked at the imaging of their knees, you would see varying degrees of severity, but not always, and I would say most times, the severity of what it looks like in imaging does not equal out to the way that the athlete can perform. I know this as 2 issues that I've had is herniated disc in my lower back and arthritis in my hip, right? So if you look at imaging of lots of backs across the country, you'll see disc herniations for lots of people who don't have any trouble at all. But then there's the people who the herniation ends up touching a nerve, and those people have problems. Or I had no cartilage left in my hip for a year, and I ran every day, and then all of a sudden it just snapped. It just broke. I couldn't do it anymore, right? And there are some people. So you look across the league, and there are players whose knees don't look great under imaging, but their knees sort of adjust to that new normal, and the bones around the joint harden a little bit, and they're less affected by the fact that cushioning of the meniscus is not there. Now, they have trouble sometimes. Sometimes like Dwayne Wade's knee was drained a lot. Sometimes he'd have to miss a week, but the hope was that because of how his knee looked in imaging, they believed, not that I wouldn't say likely, but that certainly a reasonable expectation is as he played more, his knee would adjust and he would have less swelling problems, which is why rest was never which is why don't play in the Olympics, rest all summer was not the solve for this, right? So truthfully, this goes back to the Kuminga thing, and the second time it hurt, and because he didn't look right in the Knicks series, and he didn't look right in the Olympics, but their hope was he will play more on it. The swelling will not happen as much. He will have issues. Is it perfect? No. But can we get the guy through 55 regular season games or 50 games and then play in the playoffs? We think it can. As it turns out, it cannot. Every time he plays 3 games, it swells up. They've tried a bunch of stuff and it doesn't work. So then we get to, okay, what are they discussing now? Now, last thing on this, and I don't know this for sure, but I'm just sort of like tea leaf reading about things that I do know, is that I will compare it a little bit to, remember when Markel Fultz was here and his family and his team was all like, he has a shoulder injury. And the team was like, not out loud, but they were like, oh, not really. And they made him go to doctor after doctor after doctor after doctor until somebody would say, oh, he has thoracic outlet syndrome. And this is the problem, right? So I think there is a bit of a conflict going on here between the Sixers and all the doctors they've talked to and Joel and his team, who want somebody to tell them, you can have this surgery and you will be good as new, because the reality of just keep suffering until it gets better is not good enough for him, which I understand as a human. Okay, so it gets to what are the options? There are a lot of options and none of them are a promise of anything better. There's like this weird radiation thing they could do to his knee that could help, that doesn't have that long of a recovery. There's one surgery that they have talked about that essentially like they kind of like break his hip, and what it does is it sort of fixes his gait so there's less stress on the knee. They don't know if that will work, and that is a year to come back from. I do not believe from conversations I've had that the meniscus replacement surgery that Lonzo Ball had is an option. Joel Embiid is much bigger than Lonzo Ball was. So it is less likely that it will hold. And if you look at Lonzo Ball, who was out of basketball for 2 years, by the way, he does not move like he used to move. And they don't even know if it'll hold up for Lonzo Ball, and they don't think it will hold up for Joel. They have talked about microfracture. You may have heard about microfracture like 20 years ago when they used to do it to guys. Amari Stoudemire had microfracture. Brandon Graham had microfracture. Allen Houston had microfracture. What that is when they poke little holes in the bone, because when you do that, a cartilage-like substance sometimes can grow from those holes that can replace that. But like microfracture is a very low success rate kind of surgery, and that keeps him out for a year. So all that is to say that there is not a salvo coming. It hopefully, maybe something will work, right? But or maybe he'll keep playing on it or whatever. But there's no like amount of rest, and there's no surgery, there's no injury that this can like be fixed. This is a condition that hopefully some of these surgical things could help him with it. But so that is like the situation on the knee, and they are hamstrung, as every leadership has been for the Philadelphia 76ers around Joel Embiid, because Joel Embiid does not like this information to be public. And then he will say something that conflicts what they say, but they cannot correct it because he does not want it corrected publicly. So that's that.
Yeah. That is that.
Yeah.
So MOC wrote something for us today that'll go up tomorrow, and he investigates a lot of these options. He talks about the upsides, the downsides. It's a lot more downsides than upsides, obviously.
Yep.
And he sort of concludes at the end of it that no matter what ends up happening with the surgery or whatever treatment they end up going with, it's time to start thinking about the Joel Embiid era, like the Joel Embiid Sixers. That concept is over.
Yes. Well,
no matter what ends
certainly
up happening,
thinking
that's
about
done.
it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's basically willing to say that we should assume this going forward. And
I think it's more likely than not. Yes.
And I'm basically with him. I think at this point it's a wing and a prayer for any of these things to end up having like real material impact on his career. And even in the best case scenario, I think we're talking about dumping next season too. And I think that if he does come back and he is able to play some semblance of the version that he was 3 or 4 years ago, or even a year and a half ago, the chances of it being on the Sixers aren't necessarily even that high.
Yeah, I think there's a world in which he could return to basketball as a different player. As
maybe.
a 20 minute a game. I mentioned to Mike, like, when you look at Brook Lopez essentially had 2 careers, right? And maybe he comes back and he can't play 35 minutes, but when you think about that also takes him buying into the fact that he's not going to go in there and dominate, and he's not going to go in there and score 35, and that's a huge if with him.
Especially because it's happening so quickly at this point now.
Right.
Like, I mean, Brook Lopez had a couple seasons to sort of adjust to the new normal. Joel Embiid was scoring over a point a minute last year.
A year ago, yeah. He was averaging 36 and 12. Yeah.
And now that's over. That's probably not coming back no matter what for any circumstances at any time. And it's funny to me because, I mean, not funny, obviously, but like when I thought about the end of the process, and that I think is what we're coming up to here. This is the end of the process we're coming up to here. And when I had pictured it in my head, it was always Joel asking out and going to another team. And that was going to be the inciting incident for the process being over. It was going to be like, okay, I've tried with this city. I've tried with this team. They've done all these different things to make it work around me. It hasn't worked the way I've wanted it to. I don't think it's going to happen here. I want to go somewhere else. And it never really even occurred to me that it would be over with him before it was over with the Sixers.
Right. Yeah.
And that's where we are, and I don't really know how to react to it. In some senses, it's easier than like if we had traded him to the Knicks and he leads them to a championship, something like that. That would hurt in a way this hurts too, but I think that would hurt in a much kind of knife twistier way. But this is just so sad, and it's only getting sadder. I don't think we're anywhere near the bottom yet with this, and we're already so far low and so deep.
Well, so the bottom, though, I think could be more like you're learning to live with what it is and stop. I think the minute that we stop waiting for it to come back, it maybe gets a little bit easier. Like you said, this hurts more. It's like the difference between having a terminal illness that kills you over 5 years or getting hit by a truck, right? Like getting hit by a truck might hurt more in the moment, but then you don't have to worry about it anymore. Whereas this is like, I think our new normal, like is on the precipice. Writes the Ricky Sanchez podcast presented by Draftkings Sportsbook. Well, I wouldn't bet on the Sixers to win for the
not
rest
even
of
at
the
minus 5.5 like they were tonight, or minus an 11.5 like they were against the Nets.
I would not.
No, bad bets.
DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Actually, let me look. The Sixers right now to win the title are, oh boy, they've dropped since the last time we talked. So I believe they were plus 10,000 last time I talked with Mike. Are they off the board? That doesn't make any sense. Oh, there they are, plus 50,000. So same as the Sacramento Kings, better than the Pistons, the Tobias Harris-led Pistons. And let me see, they're their odds to make the playoffs. Now, this might not be on there because they just finished their game, and a lot of times, these are off the board because they just finished their game. Look, this season won't be fun to watch most of it, but you can bet on stuff. And look, bet what you can afford. I don't bet $5. Can you afford $5? Bet $5. It's a little fun. You do a same game parlay. You can bet, how many points fucking Justin Edwards is going to score. I don't know. Do a same game parlay with David Roddy threes.
Take the fucking over with David Roddy. Let me tell you.
Take the over. It's fun, and when your team stinks, it might make it a little more fun. And if you're a new customer, bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Take it to the rack, as they say with DraftKings Sportsbook. Every point counts. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use code RTRS. That is code RTRS for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Got to be 21. See show notes for details. I think.
I'm sorry. I forgot the third thing I got to say about the game.
Yeah.
There's one more thing I have to say about the game.
Yeah.
Lonnie Walker the fourth hit the fucking bricks, pal. Like, did you see that 3-pointer that he passed up?
Dude.
Gone.
Gone. Warm body. They need warm body.
That body is cold. That body is not of interest to me. Look, we have enough shit to deal with on this team right now without another fucking guy who won't shoot 3-pointers. Spike.
Trust me.
Especially this guy killed us last year in that Brooklyn Nets game that ended up shunting them to the 7th seed. He's going to do that to us last year, and he can't take a fucking open 3 for us this season. Get out of here, pal. Get that weak shit out of here.
They signed him to a 2-year contract, so I think
I don't care.
Yeah.
See, he can sit outside the arena. I don't want him in the building.
Can we go back to, because you had mentioned last summer, right? And the off season. So I think there's 2 interesting ways to look at the Embiid extension, which, Mike denies it, but I believe multiple times I said you didn't have to give it to him now. And Mike sort of, shooed me away. But I actually think I might have been wrong one of 2 ways. I think there's 2 things you can look at with Embiid. The first one is looking at it as, if you do not give him the extension, he does not go recruit Paul George. Now you may look at this in retrospect and say, good, whatever. But if you are deciding to go in with Embiid, and the only way he will recruit Paul George, and the only way that Paul George will know that this is a situation he wants to be in, is if you give Embiid the extension, then they are and again, I understand what you're saying, but good, they shouldn't have. Okay. But if we all decide that that's what the move is, then you probably have to give it to him, right? So he had 2 years and an option left. I got it right. 2 years and an option left. So essentially that made this a 2-year extension, right? Until 2029. Okay. So that's the first way you can look at it. And if you're looking at it that way and you're deciding not to do it, then you might as well trade him. Because if you are not adding a star or whatever, and he's not going to help you get people, then you might as well trade him. Okay. Option number 2 is that ownership was angling for a new arena. And the owner does not want to appear cheap or have any controversy in the summer leading up to the season when he wants that new arena. And let's say Elton Brand and Daryl Morey were like, well, here's what we could do if we don't want to do that. And he's like, fuck it. This is chump change in the long run. I need to get this building built. We're not doing this now. I don't want this controversy this summer. That is option number 2, right? So I think... and I tried to get this across to Mike, but I don't think Mike always listens when I'm talking to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there is, if I have a criticism of Morey, because I would like to be more critical of Morey for this summer, but I can't because I co-signed everything except for the extension, which may have been necessary anyway. If I have a criticism of how he thinks about basketball, and it sounds a lot like how we talked about basketball at the beginning of the process. It is sort of binary in how much of a chance does this give us to win a championship versus not win a championship. And I think you could say that, all right, let's say in 15 out of 100 opportunities, Joel Embiid is healthy enough to play. That's what, and in 4 or 5 of those 15 opportunities, Joel Embiid gets us a championship. Okay. That gives you number X. He looks at the other options. And let's take a player like, let's see, Tyrese Halliburton, a good player that isn't good enough to win a championship. And he would say, well, the odds that that player will win me a championship are lower, which might be true. But also the floor for that thing is much higher. And what we are experiencing is the boom or bust of going all in with Joel Embiid and what that meant last summer. But I also think about, you think about the Mavericks and what they did with Luka, right? And imagine if the Sixers had traded Embiid after his MVP season. Now that might have been the right way to do it, right? Maybe they get 6 draft picks and all that, but we would have gone ape shit at that. So I really don't know. I think if the Josh Harris thing is true, and I don't think it's impossible, I think that's interesting. And I understand the other version of it. But all that is to say, I think he has probably negative trade value at this point. I think you'd have to probably pay picks to get off of him.
Undoubtedly.
Because of that, I don't think you trade him this offseason. I think you might as well. You're in this deep anyway. See, he might not even play next year. McCain comes back. Maxi's here. You try to get a great draft pick or get a draft pick this year and see what happens and play it from there. But it's really dangerous to go and trade draft picks to get rid of Embiid if the whole purpose of what you're trying to do is to rebuild, and you're setting yourself up for doing that by losing a bunch of picks.
Yeah, and I mean, this is sort of the downside of franchise loyalty in general. Like, you look at the last years of Dirk in Dallas or Kobe in Los Angeles, it never ends well. It usually ends 8 to 10 years later than it's going to end maybe with Joel.
Yeah.
But like, when you sign a guy to a contract like this, a lot of the times it ends up looking pretty stupid, and it's going to probably end up being that way for the Sixers a lot sooner than we expected. But I'm never going to fault Daryl for not trading Joel Embiid when he had the chance. I mean, maybe that would have been the smart thing to do. I mean, it also would have been the smart thing to do to trade Ben Simmons after the 2019 Raptors series and build around Jimmy Butler instead, but we would have cried bloody murder at the time. There's no way that ever was going to happen. It wasn't a realistic possibility at the time. I don't think it was a realistic possibility to trade Joel either. And if we're going to go down with him, like if we're going down with the ship and that's Joel, I can live with that. I mean, that's the way it has to be, I think, to a certain extent. And it sucks, but here we are,
I don't think it's good, but I also don't think, let's say it doesn't work with Embiid. My guess is Paul George is not on the Sixers after next year's trade deadline. That'd be my gut, right? And let's say you get neutral value for him. Maybe even you get a highly protected first round pick. I think it's possible. Everybody's talking about Paul George being cooked. I don't think he's cooked. I just think he's a front runner and kind of a wimp. And I think if the Sixers were good, he would probably be pretty good this year. And I just don't think he's a guy to pull you out of the depths of whatever this is. So, I mean, you could do worse than... I think you have to ask yourself, well, there's 2 things here. First, you could do worse than starting that whole journey with the picks that they have, Maxey, McCain... whatever, you have a functional NBA team, you probably win 37 games, whatever. But I also think there's a world in which you have to consider, if this is where we are, you have to at least think about the idea of trading Maxey.
Yeah.
Because that could even out the weight that you're carrying with Embiid from a contract standpoint, because all of a sudden your team is now built around a bunch of, guys on rookie contracts and 1 and 2 year guys, or you can shoulder the load of trading a pick or 2 to get off of him. This is all horrifying to talk about, but
no, I'm never going to advocate for trading Maxey, but I don't think anything's off the table at this point. This is the worst, like you said, it's the worst Philadelphia sports season probably the last 3 decades.
Yeah,
there's nothing to protect here. There's nothing to hold on to. everything is up for sale potentially. Like there is no sacred cow on this team at this point, and that includes Maxey. I mean, I would love to see them try to build around him a little bit, see what he and McCain could be together. If we do end up adding another lottery pick at this draft, let's see what those guys can do. But I certainly don't think he's untouchable. I don't think there's anything that's untouchable on this roster right now.
And by the way, draft pick, mentioning the draft pick, I will forever say that Mike misunderstood your position in the argument, whether he misunderstood it on purpose or by accident, and you were more right than he was.
Well, thank you, Spike. That is very kind and validating of you to say.
Yes, I try. Your point was this. And I'm going to say it now without Mike arguing with me because I said it last pod. Your point was this is not going to get any better by resting everybody. You should either blow it up or go in because you only have so many years with these guys. I don't think you were specific. I think your choice was go in, but I don't think your specific advocation was to go in. It was to not do anything. It was either blow it up or go all in, but don't just do this thing where we're waiting for our old players to get older next year, right?
Yeah, like next year never existed for me. Next year was never an option for me. And I think you would probably agree with me now that in all likelihood, next year's already shot like before it even starts, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was closer to where you were than where Mike was. Right. I was just sort of and really at the end of the day, they kept all their players and they lost a bunch of games anyway, which was...
And that's what I was trying to tell Mike. He was still giving me shit. And by the way, Mike, purest Philly sports fan that's ever existed, he was proven right. Like, he won, and he's still so fucking mad at me that he can't stop mentioning me on all these podcasts. Like I can't even listen to the podcast when the team is this bad. Like,
but
I'm sorry,
I don't even think he was proven right.
But it doesn't matter whether his reasoning was correct. He got the result he wanted. He won.
Right.
But he's still so fucking mad about it that he can't help but be angry enough at me to continue complaining about it. It's the most Eagles fan shit I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, God bless Mike, but he's a terrible winner. In any event.
Well, I brought up that he still hasn't admitted that he was wrong about Ben Simmons. And
I don't want to get back into that again. But look, generally you're right. Like I never thought that this team like had the juice. I never thought, just get into the playoffs and anything can happen. I mean, I might have said that once or twice. I didn't believe that there was a 0% chance they could do stuff in the playoffs. But I was never like, this team is a sleeping giant just waiting to be awoke. And that was never my stance. My stance was it's bad. It's only going to get worse as long as we're all here and semi-ambulatory. May as well fucking go for it. Now, if I had known that this was the Joel we were going to be getting in like 2 games time when Mike and I had that podcast, I wouldn't have been so like hard in my stance about it. But I still feel like whatever. Like there's no reason to think that this year wasn't the best chance that this core is going to get. And so if that's not good enough for you, fine, blow it up. If you do think that there is still a chance that this core could do something, go for it this year. Clearly, already we're in the hole for next year. It's not going to be any better than this year. So great. Now we have won. Now we've gone nowhere for another 2 years. And by the time the team is competitive again, it's going to look completely different. And Joel Embiid probably isn't going to be on it.
Yeah.
And the other point that I want to make about it is a point that I feel like a lot of people are missing. There's a lot of people kind of coming to the conclusion that they need this pick this year or the team is going to be irrelevant for the next 4 years. And I understand where that line of thinking is coming from. I understand the importance of the idea of getting another sort of blue chipper to add to this roster and kind of extend the timeline that way. But they've gotten 2 blue chippers outside of the lottery in the last 5 years already.
Don't be that guy.
Sure, fine. That's not even the main thing.
They don't even get a pick this year if they don't get this pick. It's not about getting a good pick. They don't get a pick.
If they get the pick this year, then they don't get the pick next year. And you and I have already agreed that they're going to be bad again next year. So we're just going to be doing this again next year instead. It's not like we get the pick this year and then all of a sudden is everything actually okay.
Would you rather have $100 now or $100 in a year, AU? You'd rather have $100 now. I
guess, but it doesn't. If we're talking about taking the long view because the next couple of years are shot anyway. What does it matter? I mean, I know some people think that this is going to be a magically great draft. We get anybody in the top 6 is going to be a magically franchise-altering decision. I don't necessarily believe that. I don't know what next year's draft is going to look like. We could have a top 3 pick next year for all I know. Like, there's no reason, I don't think, to think that this is our one chance. The team's going to be bad for a bit. We are going to have other shots at the lottery. Who knows what's going to happen in free agency trade? I don't know. But
it gets you something out of this.
It gets
year.
you something to hope for. That's what it does. It gets you hope. And that's great, and I understand the importance of that. But I don't think that's going to be our only shot at it. And there are a million examples in NBA history of teams that thought they were going to be bad for 1 year, and they got a great lottery pick, and it ended up doing absolutely nothing for them.
Do you know what you sound like right now? You sound like the people that said, like, what do you need the first pick for? Steph was the 12th pick. That's what you sound like right now.
I understand there's a little bit of that. I think this is not nearly as binary a thing as people are making it out to seem. And look, the team's almost certainly going to be fucked regardless. So I'm not saying they follow this one plan that I have and all of a sudden everything's going to be good again. I'm just saying that this one pick as like the savior, and without it, we're sunk. A, we're probably sunk anyway, and B, the pick could come next year, it could come down the line. Like, this is not going to be our only chance to be bad. Trust me.
CJ, the YouTube chat during this season has been just outrageous. I give credit to all our regular listeners and the good YouTube and Twitch chatters, but the bad ones that just pop in, not the non-subs, that pop in after losses, outrageous. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is brought to you by Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. We have 2 Big Barkers in our bedroom. One Scotchy sleeps on, she's 40 pounds. One Rebel sleeps on, he's 40 pounds. They could sleep on the same one. I mean, if we're being honest, we don't need 2 of those beds in there. But what's important is they sleep on Big Barker dog beds because those beds keep them healthier. That's right. And I would tell you this, getting a good mattress for me, like, changed my life in a positive way. I was having back issues, blah, 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 blah. I upgraded. It's actually Tempur-Pedic or whatever, but I got one of those beds and it made my life better. And when your dog is sleeping in, and I know they look comfy, the sort of oval shaped ones that look like puffy pillows or whatever, they're comfy to lay in, but they're not good to sleep in because they're not supportive. And if you slept in something like that, you would wake up and your back would hurt. And if you slept in it every night, you would be in bad shape. It's the same with dogs. Go to bigbarker.com. Use code FREEPATCHES at checkout. You get the Big Barker Process Pup patches. You get 2 of them, black and white one, red, white, and blue one. They haven't sent me a red, white, and blue one. I want one. And stickers, and you send us a picture with your dog on the bed with the patch, and we put it on Instagram, all that. Process Pup, great. But the better thing is that your dog is going to live a healthier life now. Up to 80% of dogs over 50 pounds develop arthritis as they age. I have arthritis. I'm over 50 pounds, right? But all dogs run that risk. And all dogs, whether they're young or old or big or small, should be healthier, should be happier. And Big Barker does that. It doesn't hurt that they look great too. Come in all different colors, all different sizes, from the tiny one up into the big one, different configurations. If you want the headrest, no headrest, whatever. And it's just like better when you go to bigbarker.com and you see the dogs laying on the beds, you can see the difference. It doesn't sink all the way to the ground because a mattress shouldn't. Again, bigbarker.com, code FREEPATCHES, 10-year warranty. The foam doesn't flatten, or they replace it for free. 1 year at-home trial. If you don't like it, they will give you a full refund. They'll even pay for the shipping. Handmade in the USA. Big Barker dog beds. That's a good one. That's a good one.
I feel like you're always surprised when my woofs are half decent.
Yeah, well, when anyone's are, actually. Okay. I don't think, just to, I guess, wrap up the Embiid thing real quick, I don't think the Olympics made a difference. It was,
maybe not.
It was like, I would, if you're going to pick one thing, I think coming back for the Knicks series after he twisted his knee against Orlando or whatever, that probably more. But it was like, what? He played 10 games, 15 minutes a game in the middle of the summer. He was going to have to play basketball eventually. It's not, if he had gone and injured the knee in the Olympics, I get it. But he didn't. So, and at least he won a gold medal, and he's never going to win a championship in the NBA.
How crazy is it that, like, we talk about, Embiid, he didn't look right in the Knicks series, and he didn't. He scored 50 points in a game in that series. Like,
yes.
That was still Joel at 70 to 80%, was a guy capable of scoring 50 points in the playoffs against a really, really good defense.
I do think partially of what we're seeing from Joel this year is not physical. It's like mentally beat down by his inability to be what he thought he was going to be.
I think it's plenty of both. I don't even know where you draw the distinction between the two at this point. I think there's more than enough to go around of either.
Yeah. And mentioned in the YouTube chat by WJM 5089, the pick is top 6 protected this year, but it's top 4 protected next year. And then there is a conditional Brooklyn pick we owe that we owe a first-round pick to Brooklyn 2 years after the Oklahoma City one conveys. If the Oklahoma City one doesn't convey for the next 3 years, the Brooklyn pick becomes a 2. So if we're really shitty for the next few years and have good lottery luck, maybe we don't give that pick at all. Let me ask you this, AU. Do you lottery party? Are you in favor of lottery party this year?
Oh, absolutely. If we don't even get a lottery party out of this, what are we doing here?
Do you think people will be excited for a lottery party? I feel like people are so mad and bummed. I don't want a lottery party that fails. They were all such huge successes, and I worry about the events not being good.
I don't know if excited is the right word for it, but I think it will be satisfying and moving for anybody who sat through this season. I don't know how many people are still left at this point who did sit through this season. I think it's going to feel wrong if we don't have it, and okay. I feel like
we'll do it. We'll do the fucking lottery party.
Yeah, I mean, like, come on, and there's part of me that thinks it would be really funny to do a lottery party and have 5 people show up.
No.
I know. I wouldn't wish that on you specifically. I would enjoy it, but that's easy for me to say. I would maybe go low investment with the guests. I wouldn't shell out like five figures for anybody.
But like either the lottery party works because it's the lottery party, or the lottery party doesn't work. Like
we should get Choo Choo back. Is Choo Choo still available?
Well, dude, we paid for him to fly from Japan to come here. It wasn't like super cheap.
Well, maybe he's local now. Who knows? Who knows what he's been up to in the last 7 years? Maybe he lives in Cherry Hill right now. We could just get him get him a SEPTA ticket or something.
CJ, you weren't ever at a lottery party while a member of Team Ricky. Were you ever at a lottery party ever?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Got to do it for CJ.
Yeah, CJ gets to see the lottery party. So May 12th, I believe, is what the date is. We have a hold at a particular venue that we have not had a lottery party in before, but I believe would be good for us to have a lottery party, have a lot of people there, and be able to do a live pod there. I need to also tell myself that I don't need to plan out the live pod like I plan out normally our live pods. We just can just sit there and BS. I can't handle the stress of.
And look, I mean, if we do actually jump in the lottery, that'll be exciting. I think.
Oh my God! Could you imagine if we got the number one pick?
I cannot. Have you started watching Cooper Flag games at Duke at all? Do you have an opinion on him or anything?
I watched when he played the Team USA stuff. I was pretty blown away by him. He's like everybody I know who watches college basketball seems to think he's pretty awesome. KOC thinks he's pretty awesome. Olinger thinks he's pretty awesome. Mike thinks he's pretty awesome. Sharp thinks he's pretty awesome. So that's enough for me.
Yeah, I've watched a handful of games at this point, which is like more than I've probably watched of any college basketball player in the last 10 years or since Joel maybe. There isn't like one thing that he does that really blows you away, but he is clearly like the smartest and the most athletic player on the court at all times, and that's a pretty good combination. I mean, if that's your starting point, that's pretty good.
The athleticism's pretty wild, actually. Yeah. Two quick things before we go. First of all, AU, we found out from a listener that AU was in Pop Culture Jeopardy. And
I like how you say I was in Pop Culture Jeopardy. It makes it sound like I was in like a real trouble with like, I don't know, some like I was in trouble with like VH1. That I was
okay.
Pop
You were
Culture Jeopardy,
on Pop Culture Jeopardy.
Yeah, that's how normal people would say it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, is that how normal people would say it? Thanks. Normal people would tell their fucking their buddies that they've been doing this podcast thing with for 7 years that they were on TV.
I told very few people about this.
Yeah, Jason said you didn't tell him at all. You asked for off, and then he never heard about it again.
Well, he found about it the way the rest of America found out about it.
On the Ricky. Yeah, on the Ricky.
That's right.
So you won, the Twisted Misters won the first round, and before we get your reaction to it, CJ gave us has a video of what happened to the Twisted Misters in the second round of Pop Culture Jeopardy, hosted by Scarlett Johansson's husband.
Food and drink, 2,000, please.
That is the other daily double, a very back and forth match so far.
6,000, please.
6,000. A nice chunky wager. I like it. I don't like saying chunky, but in the category food and drink, Andrew McCarthy interviewed Rob Lowe and Demi Moore for this 2024 documentary that took us back to the 80s.
Spike, do you know the answer?
I read AU's thing, so it was in there. Yeah.
What is brat?
No, I'm sorry. What is brats? Literally an S. I'm sorry. That takes you down to 12,400.
Now, was there a final Jeopardy or whatever?
There was. We were in second by a little bit, and everybody got the answer right. So
now, your article on writesrickysanchez.com. Now, if you can go to our website, you get all the articles emailed to you. I know Substack is a normal thing that people know about, but the ability to get everything from a website you like just sent to you, so you don't have to go on the web, you don't have to remember, I think is excellent. So you get MOC's articles, AU, Ollinger, you get the pods, whatever. You talking about Jeopardy as a lucky thing, like it's fucking Wheel of Fortune or something, and that the clicking part of it is not skill, is luck. Ken Jennings won how many Jeopardies in a row? 100? Was he just good at a coin flip? It's not a luck thing. You lost because you weren't as good as the winners, AU.
Well, thank you, Spike.
You need to fucking...
you're right. I should stand on business there. Now, the buzzer thing, it is a sort of a skill thing, and I actually got better at it as the game went on.
Yeah.
Ken Jennings was playing against 2 people, not 8 people. That is a difference. I know. You roll your eyes at me all you want. That's fine.
There's 3 teams.
Sure.
Okay, so you were playing against 2 teams.
Yes, that's
just
true.
Just like he was.
But everybody is playing. We always have way more people buzzing against at any point. And look, I mean, it's a milliseconds difference. And since Ken Jennings, everybody else has studied all this shit. And if you go on Jeopardy now, you know the tricks that Ken Jennings was using. It's not like he invented this thing and now he's still the only person that knows the secret of it. Everybody knows there's books that have been written about it. And so we practiced it.
The
we
books.
tried.
Okay.
So you don't want to talk about anything involving the game at all, none of the strategy, none of the daily double wagering, nothing about that. You just want to give me shit for not being better on the ball.
Well, go ahead. Give us what happened. Tell us what happened. I don't want to talk about the strategy. But you can talk about it. I want to know your emotions of getting your ass kicked in Pop Culture Jeopardy.
Thank you. So the answer that we gave, which was the wrong answer, obviously, yeah, it was close, but it was wrong. Some people have messaged me being like, "Oh, I can't believe they didn't accept that." They shouldn't have accepted it. It was the wrong answer.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like I knew the right answer and I just said the wrong thing. I knew that the answer I gave was somewhere in the vicinity of the right answer, but I wasn't by no means positive.
Something, because they are the Brat Pack people. It had to be.
Well, but it was just brats instead of brat. I don't know why it had to be that. But,
no. I'm saying you're saying you knew in the vicinity of. My guess would have been something in that world, in the brat world.
And I remember seeing the title on the Hulu load screen menu or whatever. I never watched it. I never really read that much about it. So yeah, it was the wrong answer. I don't regret that. I do regret that we went wrong with the amount we wagered there because we were up by a little bit and we didn't wager enough that if we had gotten it right, it would have been a done deal. But we wagered enough that by getting it wrong, we dropped to second place. I saw one recap of our game that called our wagering catastrophic. Maybe. So that's the one regret that I have. But it's hard to calculate the stuff in a moment's notice.
Well,
now I'm sure that's more of our losing attitude that we just weren't on the ball enough and doing the math in our heads like a bunch of TI-83s or whatever.
Well, okay, but see, this is my problem with you here, right? So
sure.
The betting on it, or how much you bet in a daily double, especially at that point in the game, is part of the strategy.
No doubt.
And thinking about it as part of the strategy and doing the math doesn't make you a robot. It just means you're good at it, right? I mean, you made a mistake on the bet. It's not you didn't make a mistake because you weren't a robot. You made a mistake because you made a mistake on the bet. It's okay.
We did make a mistake on the bet. Look, I think we were lucky to win the first game by as much as we did because the other team got the daily double and they just got a hard daily double.
Yeah.
That luck is a major part of it. And look, I don't think that we were by far the best team or anything. I think we were probably about equivalent with the teams we beat and the teams we lost to. But we got lucky once and we got unlucky the second time. And it happens. It's fine.
I want to give you credit for your victory, and I can't give you credit for your victory and your performance unless you accept that losing was about something other than luck.
We didn't play well enough to win.
Okay, there you go. This is it's like Mike said, Boston Celtics hit a bunch of shots, and I was like,
sometimes the Boston Celtics do hit a bunch of shots, but no, look, I mean, we did get the most right answers in that round, but we also got the most wrong answers in that round.
Right.
I don't know how to judge whether our performance was a win-worthy performance. we did a couple things wrong and they cost us the game. And that happens to this. That's happened to the Sixers any number of times, and it happened to me too at the exact same spot that it usually happens to the Sixers. So that's just
are
where we
you
are.
and the Twisted Mister teammates like thinking about? Would you do this again? Will you compete again?
Would we go out to Los Angeles for a free trip to potentially win thousands of dollars playing trivia?
I just mean continuing the. I'm actually impressed by, like my coworkers. Ike and Jack, that there's the only coworkers I really talk to anymore. They're always impressed by the amount of stuff that I know, but I don't think I know that much stuff when I see the amount of stuff that you know about stuff. Like I don't remember nearly as many facts. So I'm actually pretty amazed by knowing that many things. Maybe it's just that I don't follow enough pop culture to know that many things. I really just follow the things that I care about, whereas you seem to follow everything.
Yeah, I mean, like, I sort of always treated this as my job even before I got paid for it. And even now, like, when I do get paid for it to, like, follow music and sports, I still feel like I have to kind of keep up that trivia part of my brain when it comes to movies and TV shows and things like that. Like, that's just the way I think about the world for whatever reason. And it's helped. Look, we won $250,000 doing this shit 17 years ago. That was very nice.
Yeah.
This time, we're still get to take, like, a couple thousand home for our troubles. But like I didn't care about that. When we lost, it wasn't a bummer to me that we didn't get to win or that we didn't get like the grand prize money or whatever the clout that came with it. I just hated that I couldn't keep playing. Like that really sucked. That really hurt a lot. But I don't have any major regrets. I mean, the wagering thing was bad, but I was afraid. A, I was afraid that we were going to lose in the first round, and then I would feel like a total chump. B, I was afraid that we were going to get to a question where I did know the answer and I just couldn't pull it. That's like your greatest nightmare as a trivia person.
Yeah.
That never really happened to me. I got some answers wrong, but there was never like, oh, I fucking knew that and I just couldn't come up with it. So whatever, we lost. That happens.
Well, congratulations. It's pretty cool thing you got there.
Thank you.
Yeah. No,
thank you for that.
I like giving you shit, but
No.
yeah.
You got to hold me accountable. It's all about accountability in this line of work.
That's what it is. I hear you. Got to be held accountable. The last thing, I have to read this email because I asked CJ if we talked about this on the pod, and somehow we didn't. Maybe when you start, are you in any group chats, AU?
Yeah, I'm in some group chats.
So I'm only in one. I've only been in one group chat, like not counting the one that me, CJ, and Mike are in about the pod, or me, Jack, and Ike are in about the show. Like a busy group chat or whatever. I'm only in one of them. And sometimes I confuse what I talk about in real life or the podcast with what happens in the group chat. And I guess this only happened in the group chat. So we got this email from Jim from Knoxville. And the subject line was, how do you not talk about Jimmy Butler shitting himself? Spike and Mike, given the long history of 1, bathroom-related discussions, and 2, Jimmy Butler discussions, how have you not had a segment on this podcast where you talk about Jimmy Butler shitting his pants during a basketball game? It was probably more of a shart, but still, I don't want to shame him necessarily. Everybody's had bodily misfunctions misfire, but I think this warrants a discussion of etiquette. I personally think you should have gone to the locker room to get cleaned up. You? And then basketball question, which team are you interested in following the remainder of this lost season? The Thunder, the Cavs? Personally, I'm back on the Grizzlies bandwagon, hoping they can make some noise. It's nice to see a team have a lost season and then recover, which they did. So have you seen this video, AU? Okay. You're thinking there's no way that Jimmy Butler shit his pants, but he did. So here, this is from a game from like 3 weeks ago. Okay, slowly, and boom. Right?
No, there's something going on there, sir.
Yeah, I mean that's a chart there. I mean it's like a very clear yellow right around his butt. Can we look again here, CJ? You go back a little bit. Yeah, I mean you got to go change your shorts from a respect for the other people that you're playing with.
That doesn't count as running from the grind. Going to the locker room to change your shorts after you should.
Well, let's be honest. Jimmy Butler has run from the grind a lot of times, so maybe you could run to the bathroom or whatever, get some new shorts.
I am shocked this doesn't happen 20 times a season. Like
what?
If I was
How
a
many
basketball
times
player,
have you shit yourself playing basketball?
Well, first off, I don't play basketball, and this is one. This is one of the reasons why. I
you
would
would
constantly,
shit yourself?
I would
This is
constantly
an
shitting myself.
insane-
Yeah. Sorry. I mean, this is why I don't. I mean, it's one of the many reasons why I'm not cut out to play a professional sport. But if I was, this would happen to me minimum once a season, probably more.
This has happened to you.
No, it's never happened to me, but I also haven't played organized sports in 25
Well, not
years.
never happened. You've certainly misfired before. All of us have.
Maybe.
It's okay.
I don't, yeah, probably. I don't specifically remember, but probably, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I was playing sports, this would be a very, very regular occurrence in my life. And
Wow, that's weird.
I don't know what to tell you.
Okay. Well, there he is. Jimmy Butler shit himself. Are you cheering for any specific NBA team the rest of the season? I don't think I
No,
like
I'm cheering for.
enough.
I'm cheering for the playoffs to just fucking get canceled. I couldn't possibly care less about following this NBA season after the Sixers are done.
I'm trying to think if there's any team I don't want to win. It's really just the Lakers. I wouldn't want the Lakers to win. I think I would like the Mavs to win. I think if Anthony Davis came back, them being rewarded for trading Doughboy over there, I think I could get with that.
It does sound like a motivating reason for you, if nothing else. Yeah. I'll probably watch the NCAAs. Like I hate being that person. I've always been with you that like I only really want to watch the pros, the best basketball. Everything reminds me of the Sixers, and it's painful. I don't like it. Okay. I'm done with basketball when the Sixers season's over.
Well, AU will be with us until Mike gets back. And
do I have to be? Is this some? Do we have to keep doing this podcast? What are you guys going to do for the rest of the year?
Well, I would like to. I mean, you know me. I think this is an opportunity to have a little bit of fun, maybe talk about some stuff that is maybe get into relationship advice, jigsaws, blah, 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 blah. We remember the biggest growth time for this podcast in its history was when the NBA shut down for 5 months. And it's not even close. We talked about what kind of foods Sixers Adam liked, and he doesn't even like food. You know,
God,
that's when I discovered like Gang of Youths. You know,
heady times, simpler times.
Life.
Some could say, yeah. 2020. Yeah. Let's go back. Absolutely. Yeah. We might be going back anyway. The bird flu and whatever, the norovirus.
Stop reading the internet.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the thing.
We should be so lucky.
Here's what I tell you. If you stop reading about all that stuff and it happens, you'll find out.
That's a good point.
But if it doesn't happen, you've wasted all this worrying on nothing. So,
well, I'm very good at wasting time worrying about things, Spike. I don't know if you know this about me, but this happens to be something that I excel at. So I don't know why I should stop now.
Well, between now and the next pod, don't shit yourself.
Okay, I'll try not to.
All right.
I'm not going to play any professional basketball, and that'll make it easier.
All right, fair enough. All right, we will talk to you next time. Are you done with TTP?
Yeah, you know, look this.